Have we met?
I guess we're here for yet another episode of Hello Earth. We've done it again. Holy shit.
We made it.
Episode 2 of talking about nonsense. At least, I don't know. Maybe nonsense, maybe not. But we talked about a lot of alien stuff last time. And I guess, I don't know. We haven't really talked about plotting out the episode or anything like that, but just to kind of put a cap on what we were talking about last time, let's revisit the UFO thing. We have some clips from Daytona Beach, I think, that came out this week. There's been a lot of talk apparently about activity in the Gulf, and I don't know if this is, I've seen some people try to say it's a part of what was going on in New Jersey, that it's moved down south.
Okay.
And that this is the hot spot for all the activity now. But yeah, there's some videos coming out of Daytona Beach. There was some links in the Discord, Kelsoe. Yeah. Go down there. Yep.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yep. And everyone, we have a assistant producer, something like that. Kelsoe.
Hey man, I'll take it.
He's our man in the shadows.
He's also one of the 4 members of Hello Carolina.
Yes. We hope Justin can join us here eventually.
I hope my phone
But
works.
as of yet, we do not know when. All right, so let's take a look at this.
I'm trying my hardest.
It's going to pop up eventually. But there's been multiple sightings of this same event, which is a little bit different as far as the UFO topic goes, because usually it's just like the one blurry video of the thing. But this time there's like multiple sightings, which, yeah, just pull up Reddit there. That's the same thing. So, yeah, this is in the middle of the night, it looks like. And what?
It looks like it's just floating.
It looks like the sun. It looks like the sun during an eclipse or something like that.
With a light beside it.
Yeah, with a small little orb-looking thing beside of it. And I don't know what to make of it. I mean, of course it could be fake. But, like, so much of this stuff is just like, is everybody faking it? Is everybody just, like, making these AI videos and throwing them all over the place? Or
that needs to be a new sequence. Is it AI or is it not? And we'll look at stuff and try to fool each other.
Well, and I know there's got to be a website or something that can, like, verify that type of shit. Load the video in. Is it AI? Is it not? Like,
I've had the opportunity to see a lot of AI material. Being that the type of work that I'm in during the day and generating tons of AI content digitally, even some video, and this does not look to be AI generated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and it's so hard to say because this is a technology that gets better every single day too.
True.
So
yeah, that's true.
As far as what can be deceitful or whatnot, the possibilities are endless. Yeah, like this looks, I think this was supposedly the same thing in the sky at the same time.
It's almost like
from further down the beach somewhere.
It's like the blood moon coming over the edge. I don't know. I'm always the guy that's trying to like debunk and rationalize everything that I'm looking at. So I might not be the.
It is kind of funny that you say that because we did recently just have the blood moon thing.
Yeah.
That was literally like last week or something, which I don't know if I'm not saying that that's what this is, but that.
Well, I can tell you one thing that I observed from that's very, very clear. It is bright as shit. I mean, look, it's reflecting light onto the ocean all the way to the camera.
Right.
When you're looking at that,
you're right.
It whatever it is, you see this the ocean waves.
Mm-hmm.
That sucker is bright, and
you're
and
right.
it looks to be probably. It's hard to tell with ocean, but that could be.
It's not too far above the water line, really.
Yeah, it's hard to tell how far away that is, but it looks like it's pretty far away. And to be able to shine a solid light and reflect off of the ocean all the way up to the camera, that's some serious light.
Yeah, see, what it looks like you could... Like, I feel like you could recreate that if you had, like, if the sky in this shot was a piece of paper and you poked a hole in it and shined a flashlight through it.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what that looks like. And as far as, like, how it's directed even, like, because it doesn't look like it's a wide, like, shine off of the center
No, it's
object
very
there.
focused.
Yeah, it seems like a directed ray of light almost, judging from what you can see on the waves there. Which, not to say that that's just what that could just be what the camera's picking up. It could be a lot different to the naked eye at the time, but I mean, it just, I don't know. It looks very strange.
Yeah. It's the second sun that we never knew about. We're on a different Star Wars planet.
Man, I hope so. I really do. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
That's the trap, though.
This could be an alien craft that has figured out how to harness the sun's energy to travel.
Well, as far as what I've seen on X and a little bit on Reddit, as far as people just talking some shit about it, is that, this is attached to the mothership that's in the Gulf right now, I guess. And, like, whatever is happening is based around a headquarters in the ocean, I guess, is the theory. Which, who knows? That's getting into some pretty deep waters there, but
I've seen a lot of AI. Oh, here's another one.
Yeah, look at that one. Oh, check it out. This is a fleet of Pleiadian crafts that have emerged from a mothership in the water below. There is a base, which is one of many in the area, that is utilized by the Galactic Federation.
A fleet of Pleiadian crafts emerged. Sultan. You remember that? Sultan.
Yeah, from Dude, Where's My Car?
Yeah.
Classic cinema there.
Yeah.
Some would say.
Now, that looks similar, and there's your second light, but they're further away. But that could be just the angle that the camera's being shot at.
It does have rays coming off either side of it, too.
Yeah.
Somebody's vaping hard in there.
I would be vaping pretty
There's
hard
chasing
probably
clouds
if I
out
was
there,
watching
bro.
something like that. See, yeah, that looks wild. Because, like, look at the rays that come off the side of it. Can you, like, pause that when it's... Yeah, look at that. Like, look at how directed those rays look off the sides to the left and right.
Yeah, that is odd. That is very odd. For those that aren't watching this on YouTube, it looks like the sun, and then I would say quasar, but half of my audience are not going to know what that means. It looks like two beams coming out
That's
the left and the
a
right.
Marvel superhero.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, this is very strange, very, very, very bright. And then there's a second light to the right of it. It's smaller, probably a third the size.
Which a minute ago, it looked like the smaller object there is a lot closer, maybe, and like it almost looked like it had some blinking lights on it, like it could have been something else potentially. Like, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Is this the same night, the same footage?
Yeah, it says Daytona Beach, March 2025. So this is like a whole slew of videos from that same night, supposedly. This is assuming that, this isn't just a bunch of people trying to get some views on Twitter, which is completely possible.
I will say this. I've seen a lot of UFO footage, and I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Ever.
See, this is... And maybe this is what can get us into the next topic is like, you have so much of this stuff coming out right now. You have all the UFO stuff. Everybody's talking about the UFO disclosure. Will they, won't they? You have Steven Spielberg coming out, I think in 2026 with his disclosure film, which is, you can assume it's going to be fiction like the rest of his works, but then you hear like he's interviewing people in New Jersey like that have seen what was going on up there. So it's just like there's a lot of noise around this topic right now. And then like as far as conspiracies go and just the realm of, what is true about things that we've learned about in history, like the JFK assassination, like what's going on with the pyramids in Egypt right now. It's just like everything online right now is telling you that there is something else going on. And like, it's so hard to know who's just talking shit because it's trendy right now and who's actually legitimately trying to uncover something that they found out, or at least think
Right.
truly, and it's just really weird that all this is happening at the same time as like the JFK Files, which come out, and it's 80,000 pages all dropped in one night with nobody to really explain any of it or walk you through it from like an official standpoint or anything like that. So it just creates more noise on top of everything else going on right now with what was going on in New Jersey, all the, conspiracy stuff surrounding the election and what's going on with Doge. And it's just, everything is so noisy right now. And I don't know, it makes me wonder, like, what is any of it being coordinated? Like, what's the deal? Is everybody just losing their mind all at once? Like, what's happening in our world? But what are your thoughts on like the JFK situation right now? Like,
I don't know a whole lot of details, and I'm hoping that you can shed a little bit of light on the details. But to answer the previous question about just everybody freaking out, losing their minds, I feel like a lot of this, and again, I could be wrong, and I always feel like this happens when there is a change in power politically. And it just so happens that whether you like Donald Trump or not, he's very polarizing. And there's always like this discussion and topic around like government secrecy and things happening, exchanging of hands, and how many things can we control, how many things can we not control, that we're just like master puppets, living out the life of having no control of anything. And so I feel like we're sort of like, all right, so we exchange power. Donald Trump's in. A lot of people freaking out about things. A lot of people very happy about things. And then that spurs on a lot of this stuff that kicks the dust up a little bit. Yep. And I could be wrong, but that's my take on that first question there. The second one is I'm hoping that you know a little bit about it, because I know the old history of like the JFK stuff and the second gunman and on the grassy knoll, and then Lee Harvey up in the hotel with his bolt action sniper rifle. And, so
as far as like what I know about it, like not much. I know a little bit. I'm interested in it, but I'm like a pretty recent participant with the whole JFK situation because it was so cloudy before. And I mean, it's still cloudy. Not to say it's any better now. There's more documents coming from the same people that everybody says are lying about the initial information. So it's just like, I don't know how much you put into any of the information that's coming out now, because obviously if everything's a conspiracy and they're hiding information, then there's no reason to believe that they're not still hiding that information. So I think you got to kind of take everything with a grain of salt right now. Some of the stuff that does seem interesting about the files that they've released recently, and once again, I have not read 80,000 pages of documents about situations that I wouldn't understand even if I did read them, probably.
Yeah.
So, like, there's layers upon layers upon layers of this shit. But you have a obvious awareness of what Lee Harvey Oswald was planning on doing, it seemed like. Maybe not his plan to do what he did, but the CIA had been keeping up with him since 1960 apparently. And there's plenty of examples and many situations in United States history about our intelligence agencies knowing about something that could happen, and either what I think is the most likely explanation would be that it's negligence. They are watching something, they know something could happen, but for whatever reason, they missed something. It happens, and they're not taking it as seriously as they should have. I don't know what the case is there exactly, but what that ends up leading to is all these conspiracy theories that say that the CIA wanted JFK to be assassinated and that they had something to do with it and that the mob was involved. And what I think is the most likely thing is that this negligence leads to this like tumbleweed of, conspiracy that builds up through the decades. Yep. And it's just like negligence. And then people that don't want to admit that negligence then forms this, shroud of theories and stuff that circulate every time you hear about JFK now. There seems to be a few things pointing at like KGB intel on Lee Harvey Oswald, because once again, I'm not very well read on the historical like facts of the situation, what the initial narrative was. Like, my jump on to JFK was saying that there was something called the Zapruder film. So like when you come in from that starting point, it's hard to like put much stock into what the official narratives were.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's not a whole lot to be known about it even still, I think, and there might be some stuff sprinkled in these documents somewhere that points at something specific, but I don't know. There's just, I guess the one takeaway is that there was a bunch of intelligence agencies, whether it was people working in Russia or the Soviet Union at the time, in our own intelligence agencies in the CIA. There's a lot of stuff about like Israeli intelligence. I want to say Cuban intelligence. Like all of these things kind of came together in a very strange way that that at least I don't think was as obvious before. And I don't know what all that's going to mean in the long term, but I don't know. There's a lot of people pointing fingers, and just be cautious if you're watching a lot of people online pointing fingers very certainly right now, because like I just don't think there's enough to go on, honestly. Like I don't know how long it's going to take for people to do their deep dives on YouTube and come up with their new theories, or whether or not they just concrete themselves in the theories that they had before. But I don't know.
Yeah, I can give you my 2 cents on this, and this is all just my 2 cents. Nothing that's anything in concrete, but I like to deduct things based off of past history and things that have happened. So if we look at numerous accounts of the government using poor souls as a pawn piece in a chess move, there's so much history behind that. And I'm not saying by any means this is true. The problem with these things is there's almost no paper trail of these accounts. So how do you prove that? And at this point, maybe a lot of the people that were involved are dead, for all we know.
They have to be.
So the problem, but I look at things in a way to say that, okay, this is totally plausible, but these are just theories, and it's just the thought behind what Ryan Conrad thinks, not what's the truth and real documentation. But I really do think that it's absolutely plausible that the government or some sort of secret agency, maybe the KGB, I mean, look at it, Russia now, how with the collusion and all this other stuff, meddling with our election. So if you think of the future things that are happening, even prior history of things happening, you could totally say that our government, the KGB, whoever, found somebody that was fired up that didn't like JFK. It was like, hey, we'll set you up and, make them look like he's going to be able to do this with their assistance. And then basically there's Law sitting right at the bottom of the stairs, ready for him.
Right.
And then what do? It's just from his perspective, it was one man that decided that he didn't like a guy and pulled a gun on him. So
yeah. I mean, it's tough to say, like, especially just with all the layers there are to the JFK situation, because like there's the whole mob situation, then there's the CIA, and then and I don't know anything about the politics of the time. I wasn't on this earth until 30 years later. So like I have no idea. But I've
watched like a couple specials on these years and years ago, and a lot of the evidence didn't add up. Like where the bullets were, where people heard gunshots from.
Right.
But there's so much like noise again. literal noise where things echo off of. They're in a city environment,
Right.
And you may fire something over here, but you don't hear it until 2 or 3 seconds later, and it may bounce off this building over here to the right, and it might have felt like there was someone at the grassy knoll.
Right.
And then the bullet shells, and then the way his head moves when he gets hit is also a controversy. But yeah. So
with the Warren Commission, which that was, if I'm getting all this right from what I understand as far as the vocabulary in this case, the Warren Commission was the investigation about the assassination, and like that's where everything surrounding the magic bullet theory came from, I think, where I'm pretty sure their theory was that it was one bullet that hit everything that happened right there. But then like I've heard things where they then went on to believe it was up to 3 shots that he took in a matter of 3 seconds. And I mean, I don't know. Things just get real squirrely. And I'm not a ballistics expert. I can't look at that video and be like, oh, yep, his head goes this way, so that means the bullet came from over here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are online that are willing to just do that.
Rip it apart, yeah.
But, I don't know. I think shit gets real weird when you're talking about ballistics and just like probability and what should happen versus what actually ends up happening. It's messy. But I think once again, like there's more noise around that. I've seen a lot of videos recently that turned out to be completely fake, where like these people have added in these, I guess, AI generated frames or something of like the driver turning around and actually shooting Kennedy. And like,
my God.
And when you see it for the first time, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
But then like, if you just look into it a little bit more, like where did these frames come from? Like who put this together? And I don't remember who put it together.
Tapes of JFK.
Right.
Yeah, somebody could easily,
But on the footage, like they keep the tracker in one of the corners of like the frames, like you see, it's like frame like 216, 217 or whatever, and then like in the video that I saw circulating where the driver turns around and shoots him, like the numbers up there change altogether, and like it's not even done very well, is my point.
Yeah.
But still yet, that's something that circulates around and everybody is talking about it for a hot second. So I don't know. That's just, once again, to go back to just the noise that surrounds everything with the JFK situation, it's impossible to know what's going on with it, and I feel like that's by design. And that's another thing that you do see in these JFK files is like the concerted effort for them to keep things classified and keep things hidden. And like there's obviously a massive game of misdirection that's going on within these agencies, and I think that, like I said, it could be that they were terrible at their jobs and they don't want anybody to know how terrible at their jobs that they were.
And that happens more often than you would think.
Right. Like, I mean, and just like seeing this at a very scaled down level, just like seeing things at my own workplace and, places I've worked before and all of these small little social circles, you can identify people like this that, have the ego that won't allow them to correct anything that they've done before and admit mistakes. And like when you let your ego get in the way of important information like this, people are going to start saying, oh, so you must have just killed him because that's what you needed to do for some reason, right? Then you don't want that to be the conclusion that people get to, but that's where they're going. So like let's just be honest about it. Like, I don't know. I do want to see, I'm interested to see what RFK has to say about all this, because I haven't, like, he's been too busy talking about, like, cell phones poisoning kids' minds in school and stuff.
Vaccinations.
Which maybe that's true. I don't know. I'm not saying that he's wrong, but it's weird that that's what he's talking about while they're releasing the files on JFK and everything. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I have my own thoughts around RFK myself, but about that guy. I feel like we could have a whole episode to talk about RFK.
It's the 5G.
Hey, he's not the first one to say it, so it's not all him. I don't know. My personal thoughts is just like, obviously he's saying some wild things that nobody else has been comfortable supporting. But I don't know. I don't know.
One thing I am curious about, and I don't want to say this because I don't want to speculate information, but has he openly said anything about these vaccinations? And like, we know that there's been some deaths from measles, and I mean, has he said that he is like against these vaccinations?
No, I don't think so. And see, like, there's always been, and like you said, this is a whole other topic that we could fill up quite a while with, but just to kind of briefly touch on it, like, I think he's had some pretty hard stances against vaccines in the past, and then people assumed a lot about those opinions and then kind of blew it up whether or not he, actually believes these things. Because, like, I know I've heard him say several times, and I mean, I take him at his word for it, that, just because he has something to say about these vaccines doesn't mean he's anti-vax in general.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know, maybe that's just his cover up so people can digest what he's trying to tell them. But he seems to be supportive of vaccines that are necessary. And I mean,
I mean, that's what I've heard, and I wanted to confirm that too, because
yeah, I don't know. I've heard him talk quite a bit, and generally, I don't know. He has a politician stink about him, as far as I'm concerned, like in a weird way. But I don't know. I tend to like him. I like what he has to say when he's saying it, and you can hear what other people say about him, and it sounds a lot worse. But when he actually like sits down and explains what he's thinking about, like, I mean, it's hard to argue with him, but I also don't know what the fuck he's talking about. So, I mean, it's just like,
then you got this the bear story.
The bear story was wild.
But
hey, shit was weird in the 70s, man. Like, and dude, that honestly is like something that can't be forgotten. I think is just like you hear people older than us, like in their 60s, 70s, if they start telling stories about their childhood and what they were getting into in their 20s and 30s, holy shit, like that is a entire different country that they grew up in. But it could be an hour away from where we are now. Like in the scale of things. So like you hear stories about that, and
I'll say this, and this is sort of in the same vein. I would never ever want to be a politician, but let's just say hypothetically I would want to run as a politician now. I'm a little bit older. I'm still like in that age where he's too young to be in government, blah, 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 this, that. But if they were to do any digging in my past, I'm sure they would find up like 2 or 3 stories that would absolutely be like, there's no way I'm voting for this lunatic. Right. I mean, everybody has their own vices, their own stories of being a kid or even a young adult and just doing stupid shit. I mean, we all have. So, that kind of speaks to that, I think, a little bit. Obviously, I'm going to make it clear, I do not want to ever be a politician. Once you do that, you're going to have a big group of people that love you and a big group of people that hate you no matter what you say or do. So, I don't want to be in that space.
Yeah, unless you are just truly untouchable as far as your past and everything. Like, it's such a weird game to get into. And I mean, I don't know. I think people like me and you are much more well-suited for, speaking for people in an honest way than a lot of politicians are because, I mean...
Let's do a podcast. John and Ryan go to Israel.
Yeah. Oh God.
We're keeping the peace, people.
Yeah, we will fix it.
Yeah.
We're bringing all the Pepsi in the world and Snickers bars.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. But as far as just fuck, what were we saying a second ago?
We were talking about RFK and
I don't know. I guess just to kind of put a button on RFK, I would like to hear what he has to say about all this, but I'm sure he's probably going to have somebody that he trusts very well to go through the documents and, feed that to him on a slow drip for a little while. I mean, that's got to be, I can't imagine like being that central to be that relevant right now in politics and like have all of this come out about your family. Cause I mean, you don't forget, like, it's JFK, but it was also RFK's father, I think, that was killed. And I mean, there's more to it that doesn't get talked about. And I don't know a whole lot about it, but you know, I think there's plenty about the JFK situation that should give people pause. Like, and I think I guess importantly, people to this point that have been reluctant to accept that there was anything weird about it, like, now's your chance to jump off of that wagon because like something else has been going on, and I don't know what it is, but I mean, just be open-minded to it, I would say. And I'm not telling everybody that they have to go do their research or anything, but just be willing to hear what people are telling you about it, because I mean, shit could get froggy.
Yeah. And another thing too, before we close and go to another thing, is there's been a long line of tragedy, as Kelsoe's looking up here, with their family. I mean, Robert Kennedy was shot and killed. Geez, I mean, I don't want to quote all, because I know there's so many things, but there's been a long line of tragedy in the Kennedy family. And it poses the question, like, what is it about that? I've know other families like this that aren't political, and it's just like one tragic thing after another. It just sort of follows them, and you have to sit back and say, like, what is it that they're doing? What is it that started all of it? Because it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
I mean, it couldn't possibly be. You don't just walk out and get shot, right? I mean, and maybe it was just one man like John Kennedy, and he had so much of a hold and made such an influence that it's just the family, everything beyond that is sort of just a cascading effect, right, of dominoes.
See,
maybe that's the case, but
I think that's probably the most likely case, because I mean, like, you're talking about a presidential assassination like that. If there's anything weird to it, and obviously there is something weird to it, you're going to have people asking questions about it. And like, of course it's going to be other members in his family that are involved with it. And I don't know the circumstances under which RFK, I believe it was RFK Sr. Is that who it was, Kels? Yeah, RFK Sr. I don't remember the situation exactly, but I remember there being some controversy about that too. I remember, I think maybe RFK Jr. was talking about it on Rogan's podcast, but I remember there was a weird story with it.
It seems that they had planned on having like a gathering, and plans were changed, and his retinue told him somewhere else to go, and they were leading him through like back exits and stuff. Well, they'd stop and shake hands with people, and like the last time he shook somebody's hand, somebody stepped out from a corner and shot him with a .22 revolver.
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to say that it's all directly connected to each other, but it would be difficult to convince me that it doesn't have anything to do with what happened to his brother, I think.
You know, one other thing, I don't want to beat a dead horse on this conversation, but one other thing that that you got to consider as well is the Secret Service that exists today was nothing like the Secret Service in the 60s and 70s. So, like, you know, there was multiple assassination attempts. I mean, hell, they just barely whizzed by Donald Trump before the election.
That's what I was about to say, is I think they're a lot more similar than a lot of people realize. Yeah. I think this is an entity that is it's got some dirt in those closets, like,
but it goes to say, like, no president is going to be sitting on the back of a convertible now in today's world. You can't protect.
No.
Even if you blocked off 800 blocks around them, there's still going to be something that slips through the cracks. I mean, look at the election this year, you know. So,
right.
But I just pointing out that the Secret Service and protection for people in high political positions are well protected.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day when they were trying to clamp down on it, it was sort of like spiraling a little bit, you know. So
it's hard to say though. I hope there's some more stuff that comes out, and they keep saying that these documents are still coming. Like, and they might have them all out by now. I'm not sure, but I remember like the day after the initial drop, there was another drop, and then I think there was another drop because, and I could be confusing some of this with like the Epstein files and what else is going on in the world, more noise. But yeah, there was a lot of reports about how like people in the CIA or FBI or somewhere was trying to like destroy documents right before all this released, and I don't know if any of that's true. I mean, I would believe it,
Yeah.
but I would also believe that somebody's just saying that for some clicks or some shit. It's hard to say.
yeah,
But
I would hope to see like some more documentation, and hell, maybe we can make a whole other pod on this as we find more information about it. So
I would like to find a way, like, and I don't know if this is out on the internet anywhere or not, but like there needs to be like a better way to like source this information and like to organize it in a digestible way for people, because like right now people are left to just kind of like, oh, go follow whoever's opinion you like the most, go follow them on YouTube or X or whatever.
jeez, man,
and
we
like,
could unpack that.
Yeah.
It would be a whole episode talking about like where we get our information from.
Right.
I could talk about that for
I say
8
that
hours.
I say that kind of discouragingly, but that's what I do. Like I follow people that I like on X.
Yeah,
I listen,
you can
listen
only
to the
trust. You got to
podcast.
start somewhere to trust
Right.
people.
And like, see, I remember I was having a talk with somebody recently, and they asked me where do I get my news, and I told them that I get it just mostly like I find out about stuff on X, and if it catches my eye, I'll go look into it elsewhere somewhere, you know, from wherever I can. And like that gets scrutinized a lot. Like, oh, you get your news on X, on Twitter. But it's like, I don't know what you expect of people, because we're following the journalists that are reporting to the news places and stuff like that. You're cutting out the middleman is all you're doing by following these people on social media. So like, yes, like I think it's perfectly okay to find your information on wherever you get it from. But just like if you see news on CNN or Fox News, wherever, you need to do your own fact checking, and you'll find out that they're bullshitting just like anything on X or Twitter or Facebook, any of that is. So
Yeah.
do your due diligence either way. But
Just Snopes.
yeah.
Go check Snopes.
Right.
Remember that? When I don't even know if that's still his thing, like Snopes.com. Where you can go
It
and
is a
fact
thing.
check.
I was on it this morning.
Okay.
And hey, how about that? We can roll right into the next thing we were talking about, because I don't use Snopes a whole lot, but then like every now and then these like really crazy things will happen that I just think it's interesting to go see what they have to say. I'm kind of a anti-Snopes person. I think they're full of shit a lot of the time, like, or at least dismissive, maybe not full of shit, but they'll be overly dismissive to things that they don't need to be. But yeah, new stuff out of Egypt with the pyramids, and this is another topic where I've only kind of gotten not informed, but started looking into a little bit more recently. But yeah, some new stuff out of the Giza Pyramids, the middle one, the Khafre Pyramid, I believe. This team of Italian researchers, scholars, they've been using these satellite scans to, I guess it pierces down into the ground. I
Yeah,
read
LiDAR,
something.
right?
LiDAR.
I think that's something I saw somebody say, but then they were using a term like the SAR scan or something like that. Either way, the way that they described it was that it took light and converted that to sound, which converts that to vibration. And then that's how they form these images and stuff. And Kels, if you'll go to the that's the 6 minute mark right there. So right here, what they're showing is Make it big for me.
Man, I tried.
Make it so big.
It didn't do it the way I wanted
See,
it to.
this isn't the scan itself, obviously. This is their 3D rendering of it. But what they're supposing here, actually, let me start here because this is their own words. And this is not really what I'm seeing on the headlines, but what the blonde lady right there sitting on the left side of the screen, she is she's like the spokesperson for this team. And she has a YouTube channel where she is just kind of discussing what's going on. And back in February, she describes this as the discovery of a ancient underground city, essentially, that is referenced in like Egyptian mythology and stuff like that. So they go all the way in, like right at the beginning of this. I can't remember what it's called, but that is the gravity of which they started talking about this situation with their spokesperson anyway. But what they've actually found for sure here, or I say for sure, but according to them for sure, underneath the middle pyramid, if I'm not mistaken, that middle pyramid is like 150 to 200 meters tall or something for reference. Underneath that pyramid, there are, I believe, 8 cylinder structures that go directly down into the ground about 650 meters.
My God.
And around each one of these, the halls of Amenti, that's what they are believing that they've found
city
here. And I looked into it very briefly, and like that's like got mythological origins as far as being like the passageway into the halls of the dead and stuff like that, like underworld type shit. But that's what they are saying that they've found here, which that's a rough way to start your research conference here, I think.
Yeah.
Which they didn't say it in this that I caught, or maybe they did. It was really hard to watch that conference. I watched about 30 minutes of it, and it's all in Italian. I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, I got subtitles, and I'm keeping up as best I can. So they might have brought it up, and I missed it. But the cylinders, they go down like 650 meters or something like that. And they
What
have
is
these
meters? This is America. I'm just kidding.
It's like 2,000 some feet.
100 of them's like a football field, dude.
Wait.
No, that's yards.
Meters are roughly yards.
Yeah, that's true.
No way, really?
Yeah.
That, okay.
There's a whole
Blows
skit
my
on
mind.
SNL talking about how we make all of our metric system. Yeah, I'll say that for another day. But yes, please go ahead.
I've seen it before. But they have these spiraling things going around them here in the image.
Now,
And,
did they say anything like that was stairs, or is that just
So the way that they refer to them are that they seem to be spiral staircases.
okay?
But there's no way that they can know that. And I hate how confident, like we talked about this last episode, I hate when people start speaking overly confident about this kind of shit, because here in a minute we'll find on this video what they actually see on the scans. I'll show you that. And this is what they're supposing from it. Which,
These are renderings from,
right. This is renderings from the scans.
See,
So-
why can't you just go up at the top of that pyramid? I'll just rip it off my pontoon boat and get the fish finder, and it'll just perfectly scan everything below.
See, I don't know how true this is, but apparently, like, the government of Egypt are very cagey about letting much go on around these things, which is
I'm
understandable.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, I'm sure.
I
They're
totally
protected.
get it. Like, you don't want a bunch of freaks coming out there trying to dig up your pyramids and shit.
If you're gonna get a curse, that's where you get one.
Yeah.
too.
yeah.
Bra, vroom, rah.
So I think there's a lot of reluctance to allow people to start digging too much, because, like, I mean, just imagine, like, this all came out March 15th. So I think this is going to be a good test for how people do react to information like this, if all of this ends up being legit, which we'll discuss that a little bit more in a bit. But if stuff like this ends up being true, then I mean, I almost feel bad for, like, what is going to happen to the pyramids, because, like, that is such an ancient, awesome structure that somebody built sometime. And like, if it gets destroyed or fucked up really in any way, like, it's going to be a shame. And I hate that. But also, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, so we know what it
that?
looks like. I'm more interested in less of their opinion of it and more of what you think it was used for and what it is. If you have you deduced your own?
So let's continue here because this isn't the end of it. So
okay,
pause it right there, Kels. So right there on the bottom, that's the scans that they got.
Okay.
So that's what they're deducing the cylinders and the spiral staircase from. And if you like squint your eyes hard enough, you can kind of see what they're talking about, I guess. But I mean, who knows? I'm not I'm not the one to pick that apart.
Or we could just be entering the matrix there.
So these cylinders, they have, I guess, 8 of them. They have these spiraling, what look like coils around it, or maybe that's on the inside. It's hard to say. I don't know what the scans suggest there. I guess it looks like they're on the outside of the pillars, sort of, judging from the bottom scans there. But it goes all the way down 650 meters. The width of these cylinders are only like 15 to 20 meters wide, I think. So they go down 650 and then they open up into these big ass square structures that are 80 by 80 meters wide and tall. So
like a football field by a football field.
Oh my God. Thank you for translating that to American. Thank you. I think that they are organ tubes. There's a huge organ down at the bottom that somebody's playing, and it's sending them up through those little things out the top.
Right.
Yeah.
No, this was God's whack-a-mole game back in the ancient days.
That could be it too.
That's what this is. So I don't know what they're supposing the big square or cube structures are down there, but that's what they say is down there. Now there should be one more timestamp, I think. Yeah, right in there. That's fine. But right here, that is scans that are from below all of that, and what they are saying all that is are other structures that are underneath the ground, and that they are saying that there is an entire city underneath these pyramids, and that's what these scans are supposedly showing them.
What is that civilization from the Matrix movies? Is it Zeus? What was that town where
I'm
they
not
lived?
sure. I only ever saw the first one.
Where that, they're all living underground. Yeah, that's what it makes me think of.
Yeah,
like you have to ask yourself at some point. There's a lot of effort to do that. So why are they going down?
See, okay,
that's the question that I want to ask.
See, what they say is it's not very difficult to do this because these are satellites that are already out there taking these images. So they just figure out which satellites they need to look at, and then they pull that information. And apparently anybody can do this. The I can't remember the names of the satellites that they said that they were using, but it was 2 specific ones. One was like the Umbra satellite, and the other one was like started with a C. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
But like my thing is like why I'm talking about these ancient Egyptians. Why would they spend all this effort to go that far down into the ground?
Well, why indeed?
Yeah.
So this gets into the depths of kind of the internet, I think, with like altered history and things like that. Like you have to start believing a lot of things have been covered up if you start going down these rabbit holes. But like you can start talking about like the Younger Dryas impact theory is like a big I hate being, a 30-year-old, some white podcaster and like referencing Joe Rogan stuff all the time. But like, this is where a lot of this shit gets kicked up these days. And that's just the fact of the matter. But I learned about that from a Rogan podcast with Graham Hancock, I believe, who's a, I don't know if he's an archaeologist so much as he is a journalist that just talks about archaeological subjects and whatnot. But they talk about the Younger Dryas impact theory, which is like this comet that supposedly hit the Earth like 12 to 14,000 years ago, caused potentially the flood that you hear about in all of these ancient texts, like the Bible, like Noah's flood and things of that nature. And they find all this evidence around the world of these relics and these structures that nobody understands how they are there or who built them, how they built them. This comes back kind of to a very basic conspiracy about just the pyramids themselves, about how did they build these pyramids when these stones are this big and they come from this mountain range over here, and like
how did they get here?
Right, well, the Egyptians supposedly do all of this in a time period where they don't have the lever, they don't have the wheel,
they don't have a bubble level,
they don't know how to write, so like they can't do any of this stuff. Like they don't have the technology if the pyramids are as old as you say they are. So, I mean, obviously there's something, I don't know. And I get a little bit squirrely talking about this because you're just getting into so much like crazy space, I guess, because like if all of that's true, like how do we not know more about this? Like why do we think all of this stuff in science and history if like so much of it can be pulled up? Like if we can find an underground city underneath the pyramids with some Italian researchers that used free to use satellites in the sky, like why didn't we know about this before? Like what is, I don't know.
Why are we hearing about it now? Why did we think about it? And well, and back to like reasoning, I would be interested to know like if we could carbon date these structures, like when did this start? What time frame are we looking at? I mean, and you know, they dig down to these ice, they do these little ice capsules. They'll drill down and you can find like when the dinosaurs went extinct, there's this layer of ash, you know, in the ice. And I would just be curious to know, like, was there a natural disaster? Was there a threat to mankind? Was there a mass hysteria virus? I mean, you know, all these things. I mean, because back then there's probably not, I mean, obviously not modern medicine that we know of today. So what this tells me from what I'm seeing in, and I'm not a psychologist, you know, last episode we weren't scientists. This time I'm not a psychologist. What it tells me is something probably threatened them or scared them, because nobody spends that much time and effort to build a city underground unless they weren't afraid of something.
Yeah, that's what I was. I meant to wrap back around there a minute ago, but that's why, you know, they could have built something like this to escape that flood from 12,000 years ago or something, supposing that this was there 12,000 years ago, which would be new information to the world as we know it. Because like it's fascinating enough that we're saying that from 2500 BC that the Egyptians were able to do this, but then if you say that it was actually 10,000 years before that, what does that mean? Like, because I mean, I don't know the scale, but like we were still like hunter gatherer cavemen type of people, you know, at that point, from what I understand anyway.
Or maybe we had all the technology back then and we lost it all from like a huge disaster, just like something could happen today. Maybe.
See, you hear like so many people say stuff like that, and I don't know what to think about that, because you would think like if people built up a civilization at least anywhere close to the size of what we have now, like you would have so many more relics. You would have like some signs that they were here or something. And like we do have, you know, maybe we do have a lot of signs that there were people here, you know, whether it's the pyramids or the Easter Island heads, whatever the fuck is underneath the pyramids. Like,
well, and you're probably more than likely right. The tablets that we talk about today are not the tablets that they had then. They were chiseled out of rock, you know?
Right.
So you're probably absolutely right. But it's interesting and fun to talk about those things for sure.
I don't know. I think there's been a little bit of back and forth with how seriously you can even take stuff like this. And I mean, I agree that you got to be really careful, because just from watching this conference this morning, seeing some of the other videos, like it starts just kicking up all this, brain fart energy in your brain. It's just like, wait, what am I learning right now? Should I be learning this? Is this true? Is this just more trash to go in the garbage compactor that is my brain hole? Like, I don't know, but it's something to keep an eye on, I guess, is all I'm saying. This has just happened.
This is super fascinating. I love to see this stuff and love to speculate these things too.
Especially just with like a situation like the pyramids where there's already all this speculation about how they did it, what happened there actually. What do all these hieroglyphs mean? Like what's going on exactly? So, the ground is fertile for conspiracy seeds. Yeah. So, like I said, you got to be careful when you're starting to look into stuff like this. But I think it is something worth keeping an eye on because, I mean, these people, like, why would they just lie about it? Is my thing. Maybe they know that we'll never be able to verify it because Egypt keeps such a tight lock on everything, right. And maybe they can just release all this shit and be like, oh, speculate on this, peasants, and give us money while we grift on this idea. Yeah. And that could 100% be what it is, but like I just don't know if they're going to make that much money off of such a thing. Like I don't think that this takes them very far. I mean, they do have like books and studies that they sell and stuff like that. So, I mean, sure, maybe it's all a business model, but like, I don't know. I don't think that they're just outright lying about any of this. They could be wrong. I don't know if they found the halls to the damned or whatever the hell they think that they found, but they've certainly found something that is worth learning about, I think. But the big question is just like, do we ever learn about it? Because Egypt does keep that shit locked down so tight, as they should.
Yeah, it's a mystery for the ages.
Yeah. But, all right. How about we take a short little break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the main event of this episode.
Sure.
What we've been working on all week.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
All right.
Howdy. I hope Hello Earth has been tickling your ear holes with loads of fruitful perspectives. But listen here, partner. It's time you stop freeloading on their material and hit that there subscribe button. It's that big old button that says subscribe. Go on now. Don't be shy. Click it like you're ringing a dinner bell. And while you're at it, tap that little bell icon too. So you don't miss the next time these boys go rambling about aliens, conspiracies, and whatever other strange stew the universe cooks up next. Now quit lollygagging and subscribe before the deep state shuts them down.
God, Maggie, you have the longest tail, girl.
No.
That tail is like...
She's a good boy.
It's not as curly as the rest of her.
She's sweet though.
Oh yeah.
She's been turned out to be such a good dog. Like she doesn't like ever bark.
Yep, she doesn't
hardly.
It's surprising because is she a golden doodle?
She's a golden doodle.
Yeah, and they're excitable as fuck usually.
Yeah, she's a chill. She's the chillest dog we've ever had. Like we got a new dog.
Not really temperamental or anything.
We got a new dog yesterday. After he calms down, we'll bring him in on as a debut on the podcast. But this one over here, the old boy, Jax, he is all over just playing.
How old is he now?
He's, I want to say 12.
Oh boy.
But still spry, wants to play. And this one just like, what's up, new dog? What you got? You know, she's just the chillest dog ever.
I know, and she doesn't even pee on my foot when I get here anymore.
Yeah, she's cut down on that a lot. The squat and pee excitement. Yeah.
But, all right. Well, welcome back. That's the story about the dogs. That's dog story time. We actually ended up talking for a lot longer than we thought on the first half there. So we're going to keep this a little bit brief, but we just wanted to kind of brush on some of what's going on with the Diddy case right now and the developments there, because that's a whole other bag of worms as far as conspiracies are concerned, as far as conspiracies are concerned. And we will probably have a lot to say on that in the future. The trial is coming up in May, so hopefully we have some more solid answers. And once again, to kind of go back to the theme of this episode, all the noise surrounding the Diddy case, you know, we both just spent the week kind of reading up on it a little bit because we were going to do a more intensive dive, I think, today, but then other things happened. But
I'll say for all intensive purposes, before we get into this, that I know nothing before this. So the extent of what I knew about Diddy is he had a bunch of music, a bunch of hip hop music. He has a lot of money and lots of different avenues, clothing lines, blah, 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 this, that. And there was lots of memes about lube. And that's about all I knew up until this point. So I wanted to give my audience, our audience, the context of my knowledge before we came into it.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't know a whole lot more about the case either. Like, I've always been like a fan of hip hop and stuff, especially like I've been a fan of at least certain facets of like New York hip hop. Like, I'm a huge Jay-Z fan, 50 Cent, Mobb Deep, stuff like that. It's all great. I never really got into like Biggie or Diddy or anything with like the Bad Boy group or anything concerned with that. And like for no particular reason other than I just wasn't into them. And I don't know, like maybe there was like a little bit of a stink. I don't know, growing up, like they always were the flashy groups, I feel, in hip hop. They were the shiny chains and futuristic music video sets and things like that. That at least that was kind of my takeaway when I was growing up, and I just never got into it. So I stayed disconnected from the Diddy circles, I guess. I was a Tupac kid. Like that's.
I'll tell you this. I'm 100% like a trader when it comes to geographical hip hop, and I love me some West Coast hip hop, like Tupac. All that stuff, yeah. And
I've always been back and forth.
I've never been much of a
the New York scene.
Yeah, I mean, and I was gonna make a point when we were, when I was thinking about what we were gonna talk about with him, to say that none of his music really, really sparked my interest. It's like, yes, this is so good. I love this. This is the best ever.
Yeah,
none of it.
I mean, I mean,
maybe like the I'm coming, I'm coming. I mean, like a lot of his songs.
Whoa.
Yeah. I don't even remember the name of that song.
Easy.
It was
I want the world to know. I got to let it show.
Yeah, that one.
So that was the only one that I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's sort of a bop. It's not like.
I mean, he for sure had bops, and I mean, like, he worked with Biggie Smalls, and once again, like, I was never a super big fan of Biggie, but, like, obviously he had hits, huge hits, and he is a undeniable legend from the scene, so, like, obviously, like, Diddy's been involved with good artists. I've always been confused about his role as far as, like, the artistic side of everything, though. Like, I don't, like, him and like, these, like, DJ Khaled figures, like, I don't know what they do because, like, I don't think they really make the beats. I don't think they're
pushers and movers.
Right. Like, they were just like these
connections.
Yeah, they're corporate influencers, I guess. Like,
here's another thing about this. And this is one of my pet peeves, and it bothers me. If you're an artist, you're allowed to have one remix of an old track per artist in your lifetime.
Yeah, tell that
all
to Dr.
of his
Dre.
songs are remakes of old songs. Like,
yeah,
and it bugs the shit. Will Smith, every fucking song that he has is an older song remixed into something new.
That's a part of the hip hop culture, though. Like, whether you recognize all the samples that you're hearing or not, like, so much, especially 90s hip hop, like so much of it is samples from like 60s, 50s.
That's how it started
stuff.
Out on the streets.
Yeah, like that was like the core to hip hop, was like cutting these records, sampling them, and all that shit. And I mean, you can do amazing things with that, but there is, like, admittedly, like you said, like there is like a kind of there's a weird gray area when you get into stuff like that because, are you just ripping off these old songs? Because they're not getting credited. Like when you hear, all these Dr. Dre records that he did for Snoop Dogg and on the Chronic, like he's,
Bangers.
I'm not reading the books on the CDs, but, you're not hearing about those original artists when you hear about these songs. Like I couldn't tell you who he's sampling, and that is kind of a shame. I guess that's kind of off the beaten path though a little bit, but yeah, Diddy was the same way. I mean, a lot of it's samples and stuff like that. That's just a widespread thing though, with hip hop.
Juicy Fruit. Have you heard the original? That Big Papa.
I love it when you call me Big Papa.
Yeah, I love it when you call me Big Papa or whatever. No, wait, that might be a different track. Hold up. The original song was called Juicy Fruit. And it's a banger. It's like, I think it came out. It's good. It's good. It's way better.
Calling a song from the
it was-
60s a banger is just wild to me, too.
Oh, it was the
I'm an
original
old
sample.
soul, guys.
I see.
I like older music.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, all that shit's great. That's why it's being used so much with these more recent samples and stuff like that. But, yeah, just to get back with Diddy.
Sure.
I guess like the most recent stuff that people have been hearing about is like with the TMZ reporting on the Cassie video from CNN, where they're saying that the original footage was altered and that no longer exists. So therefore, like the Cassie video can't be admissible in court. And once everybody's seen the Cassie video, my question is, like, does it really matter? Like, are you going to get that out of the minds of the jurors' heads anyway? And, like, does that end up being such a big deal? Like, is this video the crux of the investigation as a whole? I guess is my concern. And then, like, is the perception that video gave the public at large going to have this ultimately thrown out if that video is considered inadmissible? Like, that's my concern with it anyway.
So I only had two major points to make, and I can make both of them right here about it. I wrote down in my notebook when we were talking about this because I wanted to capture my thoughts and make sure that I remember them when we have this chat. But one of them is, and then I'll lead into the TMZ thing. The first one is, the one is sort of a question is, are we asking if Diddy is guilty, or are we more concerned with, is the justice system going to pull through for us? Just simply because, I mean, look at OJ. Look at, like, I mean, there's so many of these cases where, like, if you have money, you have power, and you have evidence, like, how far can we slide things under the table and just, because I watched this documentary, he's gotten out of so many things. And so,
Yeah.
that's my first thing is, are we asking, is he guilty? I mean, look at his track record, but also, are we asking, is our judicial system going to pull through, or our justice system, so
It's hard to say. I mean, like, especially like reading into a little bit of his past, like there are things that would lead one to believe that he has had a pretty tight grip on at least local law enforcement in New York and stuff with some of the situations he's been involved in, and even in LA, there was a shooting at a record studio in 2016 that he was involved with, where I can't remember the details of it exactly, but there's
like
conspiracy.
another rapper like Yeezy or something. Or
Well, no, this came out of the Lil Rod allegations, I think.
Okay.
And according to Lil Rod, there was, let's start with the official story. So the official story was that there was a drive-by shooting. The guy named G, I think was what they called him. He gets shot in a drive-by shooting outside the studio. He comes into the studio through 2 locked doors with like keypad entry, and like I don't know. The idea is that he gets inside and then they call the police. Whatever happens, happens. But then Lil Rod says that it was actually Diddy and his son who took G into a bathroom, and then whatever happens, happens, and G gets shot in the bathroom. I am Lord of the Puppies. But whatever happens, happens. And yeah, so if Diddy's able to turn LA police as well, is my point, you know, justice hasn't prevailed so far. So to see it kick into action, like, did something change? Like, did Diddy lose influence somewhere where he shouldn't have? Did his head just get too big? Did he think he could get away with stuff that he couldn't? You know, is everything tied? Like, you hear some stuff to suggest that this is all tied up with like Epstein stuff, and like maybe this is a boulder that's been rolling down the hill for a long time, just collecting more and more debris along the way.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say where all this is going to go. There's a lot of really crazy allegations, though. And I mean, it gets into, you know, child sex trafficking. It gets into the, you know, just general racketeering charges and whatnot, drug running. It's terrifying. And on top of everything, like, you have certain celebrities out there kind of making a show of it. Like, you know, you have like 50 Cent, you know, his Instagram page is amazing, but like, he jokes about Diddy a lot, you know, and it's just like, if everything's as serious as people are acting like it is, like, should we really be joking about this kind of thing? Like, like, that's kind of like the whole like Kendrick Lamar Drake Super Bowl thing, like, where you have Kendrick Lamar with no evidence going on stage at the Super Bowl and telling the entire world Drake's a pedophile when there's no evidence to support that. No. But everybody's just like, Drake's a pedophile. But like, that's pretty serious. Like,
for all we know, they're in on it because they know it sells records, and then they're just slipping Drake some money. Hey, nice little bit. Right. Good job, guys.
But I mean, my point being, just like, if you're doing all that and you're making jokes out of like Drake being a pedophile, you're kind of forgetting that means that there's like a victim somewhere that's seeing all this happen and seeing nobody talk about the actually very real side of these accusations. So like, I don't know, just to get back to the point, everything with Diddy right now, like, nobody's taking it seriously, but there's like these heavy allegations, like, and it just more noise.
Yeah. So
noise.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about, just for like 5 minutes, give you my, I want to freak off about this TMZ thing. I'm going to just freak off for a minute, okay?
Yep, I'm sure.
We're going to have a freak off verbally about TMZ. So let me give you a little history.
Absolutely.
I fucking hate TMZ, okay? Because the problem is, it's just, what I relate it to is the tabloids when you go to check out at the gas station.
Right.
And that's just the way I perceive it. And some people love this stuff. They want to cover celebrities. They want to hear about celebrities. They want to hear about what Taylor Swift eats for dinner. And like, it's just not my bag, baby. I mean, it's just like, you know, but so I wanted to give you a little context. Going in, that I'm a little biased listening to TMZ.
Right. Yeah.
So I hear TMZ and they're like, okay, so this is a 10-minute long segment. Maybe I'll give you guys we'll give you the link in the video to watch it if you want. So I will plug you there if you want to go and watch it. But this thing's about 12 minutes long. And for 10 minutes, they talk about, well, that CNN has footage of, you know, Diddy beating the crap out of, what's her name?
Cassie.
Yep. But they said that they didn't have the original. But did they have the original? Well, hang on, let's look and see. So CNN said they didn't have the original, but what's concerning is But I mean, you see where I'm going here?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, absolutely.
For 10 fucking minutes, they talk about like
Right.
who has the original, and I'm like, this is not 1990 on a VHS tape.
Right, they could have figured this out beforehand.
Yeah, it's just they're just talking like words to me, and it's so fucking annoying. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to just be like, who gives a fuck? I mean, look, I'm sitting here. You can reverse it. Flip it up, down, and reverse it, whatever, because it's your primitive wham, you know, whatever. But
Yep.
So like you can flip it any way you want in reverse, forwards, backwards. I mean, an apple is red. If the apple's red, it's red, and I mean you can just clearly see Diddy beating the shit out of her.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
my rant. I'm gonna come
Right.
back down off my high horse. I'm done with my freak off. So
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
there you go.
that's what I was saying is just like that's kind of what I'm worried about. Like, and I don't, you know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not, you know, a psychologist, I'm not a lawyer, but like you watch all these shows on TV where it's just like it seems like there's elements of public perception that will like poison these cases and make it really hard for like these proper judgments to be passed. And
Yeah.
I'm just worried that like if that video gets thrown out, like it's everything to the case. And
Right.
I mean, not to say that there's not plenty of other allegations, but that's all civil suit stuff. Like I could have this wrong, but I think the Cassie video is a part of one of the only like federal crime parts of the Diddy situation. So if that goes, I think everything else is going to start getting really slippery. But you know, I don't know. I guess there's a lot to wait on right now. Like I said, the trial is in May. We're going to get a lot of information at that point, I think. Or, you know, maybe we'll get some information. Lil Rod was a producer for Diddy on his last album back in 2023. And that's where a lot of the heat comes from, I guess, online right now. That's where you start seeing people's names like Usher and Meek Mill being brought into it. And I don't know, there's a deeper web that you can go down with Diddy as far as like other celebrities who have kind of met unfortunate fates in the past that all have these like weird connections to Diddy. And I don't know how much all of that gets uncovered along the way, but I don't know, just keep an eye out, I guess, is all I can say about the Diddy situation. And we'll talk about it more here and kind of bring some of the history of it to light, hopefully. But yeah, just keep an eye on it. There's plenty of information online. Like what I've been watching a lot of is like Gene Deal. He was a ex-bodyguard for Diddy from I want to say like 96 to 2005 or something like that. And he's got a lot to say about it. There's an R&B artist, Jaguar Wright, who has been making the rounds on all of the shows, talking a lot about kind of the crazier side of things. Like she'll pretty openly talk about like Jay-Z and Beyonce being involved in this. And like she was on Piers Morgan talking about Jay-Z and Beyonce. And she was earlier this year in February, I think, awarded the like Presidential Medal of Honor or something like that. So who is she talking to get like such an award like that? Because like I think a lot of people didn't take her seriously until she got that award, and then they're like, wait, so she's actually working with people? Like what's going on here? I don't know. All that being said, just keep an eye out, I guess, on the Diddy case, because there's going to be a lot of weird things that people aren't ready for. I think if the truth gets out on Diddy, like a lot of crazy shit's going to start coming out as far as other celebrities and what's been going on in Hollywood. Like, I don't know. I think Hollywood's a weird fucking place, and there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And
and history will show as one thing comes out, more it compels more people to feel comfortable coming out about those subjects. If you look at like Bill Cosby, I mean, similar situation about, I mean, I'm sure, you know, a lot of his stuff is quite more disturbing, but still Diddy's just as much alarming. But yeah,
I think Diddy's potentially a lot more alarming than Cosby. Like,
Yeah.
at least Cosby. Well, no, I'm not going to say it like that because there is no good side of it. But
Yeah.
Cosby was one man who did crimes independently, it seems like.
Yeah.
And Diddy is working at a corporate level in crime, it seems like.
Well,
if
we
a
do
lot of
know
this is
that
true.
from the reports, and at least they could probably, Crosby's already been convicted, and he was basically what you would consider date raping, and Diddy's doing no different from the allegations that he has now. So,
Yep, that's the idea. I mean, the whole thing with Cassie, and like a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people think that they were just hanging out in that hotel room, and that she left the hotel room like until a week ago. This is what I thought, was that like Cassie and Diddy were in a relationship, and she tried to leave his hotel room one day. He didn't like it and came out, and you see what happens on the hotel video. But like Cassie says that like he was pimping her out to like these male prostitutes and shit, and like doing this whole thing with like making videos of her with these other guys, and like doing this whole operation. And like to start hearing that, and to have not heard it before when you do hear about the other stuff, is like, I don't know, it's weird.
yeah, it's only going to get worse as they move on,
Yeah.
like as these things come out.
Yep, I agree.
And
Just
I think we'll have more to say about it and probably be able to cover another at least half of an episode about this.
Yeah, I do feel like starting a podcast is honestly just kind of like a Pandora's box at that point, because like you start having to like look into these things, because like, oh, what are you going to talk about on the episode? You want to know what you're talking about. You want to sound somewhat knowledgeable about what you're going into these things with, but then like you start looking into the things and it's like, wait, wait, that's true? Like nobody's arguing with that? And then it's like, wait, what does that mean? And then like you find something else, and then like that thing sounds a lot like this. And like, all that being said, my point is that y'all are going to watch me go crazy in real time, and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Watch it all here.
And so like we'll touch back on the bulk of Diddy closer to the trials.
Whoa, easy. I ain't touching no Diddy bulk, if you know what I'm saying. All right. Well, let's wrap it up then for today. We, once again, we are from a little music group called Hello Carolina. If you're not familiar with us, we make some music. Myself, I'm John. That's Ryan. He's Kelsoe over there.
Hey.
And our long lost friend at this point, Justin. We are all Hello Carolina. You can find our music wherever you do that kind of thing. We recently just dropped a stripped down, sexy version of our first song that we ever released, She's Coming. I wanted to call it She Came, but whatever. Yeah. But that's out there in the wild for you. Myself, I have some other music. If you look up Off Base on any of the music platforms, you'll find my hippity hops, my raps, and that's out there for you to consume as well.
And I'll vouch to say John is quite the hippity hopper. He's a pretty good hippity hopper.
I do what I can. Yep. But yeah, anything else from you, or anything to talk about, Kels?
These two are also in another group called you want to plug that too?
Yeah, Kelso and myself are in another band. We're like a weird grungy punky alternative rock thing called The Handoff. You can find us wherever you listen to music. We will be having a music video soon for a song called Scum, so that's going to be great. And I think that's about all I got.
Yeah,
I got nothing.
Y'all got a bunch of stuff to go check out.
Yep. Sorry about this cluster.
No, this was good. We will follow up soon.
All right. Farewell, yawns. Tell us what you think in the comments.
Laters.
Hello, Earth. Have we met?